Thank you very much for inviting me to speak to you on this occasion on a topic that is very important, but I must say very difficult also to realize. Business education partnerships. Today, the subtitle of my talk is Organizing Partnerships, Didactically and Examples from Austria. And I want to start with an experience that I made just last week, because I was at an event that was following a similar goal. It was about establishing networks for education and also education business partnerships. And what I realized was that it's very, very difficult because there are so many things, so many factors that intervene in the creation of business education partnerships, such as the time available to the partners, the resources available to the partners, or the competences that the partners bring to the partnership. So in the next 20 minutes, I would like to talk about some ways, some overarching concepts for organizing business education partnerships, and then present 3 examples from Austria. But first of all, I saw that you already have a list of types of business education partnerships. And I looked at these and I thought, oh yes, that's really good. So where should I start actually? So you have all the important types of business education partnerships already here. So I would like to focus on creating these partnerships in a sustainable way, in a way that is more than just one meeting or more than just one collaboration, but that also can be used in creating curriculums, like you have here in the 3rd bullet point, curriculum development and adaptation. Why? The reason is simple. I think that having a curriculum and having also qualifications that students can obtain is very important, because qualifications are signals on the labor market. Be them just a certificate or a formal qualification, doesn't matter, but something that they have in hand to show. So this is why I would like to focus more on this. All right, I would like to start with this graphic here, and it helps us to think about how to address workplaces, basically. And on the upper right-hand side of this graphic, you see the restricted workplaces. On the lower right side, you see expansive workplaces. So what does that mean? We all know there are workplaces where people don't have the time, don't have the resources to engage in learning. They work from 9 to 5 with a short break of, I don't know, half an hour for lunch, but they don't have the time to engage in learning. So this would be, for instance, a restricted workplace. An expansive workplace, on the other hand, is a workplace where you have the chance to interact with others. You work on projects. Where you have the chance to bring in, you just contribute your own ideas to the work, and you can develop things where you have the chance to be creative. That would be an expansive workplace. And what's important here in this graphic is the 3 levels. So at the very bottom, you see the level 1, which is informal learning at the workplace. When you identify a workplace that is expansive, where people have all these chances to learn through work, it is most appropriate to focus on informal learning. I will come back to that later, what that could mean for a business education partnership. As a second level, you have the non-formal learning close to the workplace. Things such as short seminars in a workplace organized by an educational institution, for instance, or something where you have a cooperation between 2 or 3 enterprises and they organize a 2-hour session where they exchange ideas or something like that. On a level 3, you have the formal learning and VET organizations. And why is this on a level 3? It's just because when people don't have the chance to learn at work for whatever reason, VET organizations are responsible or should be responsible to serve them and provide them with formal learning opportunities so that they can actually acquire the knowledge and the skills necessary to perform at work. For those who have the chances on level 1 informal learning, it is not so important. They need more support directly at the workplaces. Things like mentoring, things like counseling, and so on at the workplace. So this is just to start off and then expand on it on the next slide. So on the next slide, you see 6 ways for organizing partnerships didactically. And what you see here in green are, for instance, 2 different segments of a industrial area. Like you have the sawmills, for instance, and you have the wood production segment, for instance. Yeah. And the yellow and the blue are 2 different educational providers, whatever, be them from the formal system, the non-formal, or wherever. And then there are 6 types for organizing the partnerships. The first one is access to education. It basically means that people from the labor market can access an educational program. And the counterpart of one is the type 6, where you have the validation in the labor market. That's the yellow and the blue arrows in the middle of the graphic. And what is important here is that you have to engage with the enterprises, with the labor market in order to address those workers, in order to address those in leadership positions, whoever you want to address, but to allow them to access an educational program or vice versa, to give someone who is in an educational program the chance to have their qualification, their skills, their competences validated or recognized in a labor market segment. Then you have the numbers 2 and 5, which are right in an education provision, and that's award of credits. You can have a cooperation between enterprises and an educational provider through the award of credits, where you say, okay, someone has an experience of 3 years. That's about, I don't know, 5 ECTS in this and that program, and you can award credits for it. That's one way to organize it didactically. And the second way, number 5, is embedding of work, which is simply means you have an internship, be it a compulsory internship or facultative internship, but some ways to embed work within an educational program. And then you have the numbers 3 and 4, which are institutional transitions, which means that you can transist from one educational provision to another. For instance, from the apprenticeship program to a general education program, like it is possible in Austria, for instance, with the Lehre mit Matura, which means an apprenticeship with A-levels combined. That would be an institutional transition where you also have an educational partnership, because sometimes you need to upgrade, upskill the students in the workplace so that they actually are prepared to take the exams in the formal education system. And then number 4 is the integration of provision, where 2 providers just combine their competences, their resources to bring about one program. And then you can also, again, engage businesses, engage enterprises, and whoever is in the labor market in order to create the partnership. All right, so this was the most important of the conceptual issues. So now I will change towards the examples from Austria. And the first one is called Competence with System. This is a program that is financed by the Public Employment Service, and it's organized through a combination of the Public Employment Service Counseling and vet providers. The structure is those unemployed or seasonal workers. That's very important and interesting. They enter a counseling, and after the counseling, they have the chance to participate in 3 certificate modules. So the first certificate modules is for those who have no experience in a vocational area. They can start from 0, basically. The second certificate model is an advanced certificate model where those who have completed the first one can proceed and then take the second one. But it is also possible to have the lateral module entry, which is a specific feature of this program. We have the lateral module entry where prior experiences are recognized. You have 2 years in a vocational area and you have some skills. You have the skills tested in the beginning, then you can enter module 2 without taking module 1. The same is the case for module 3, where you can also proceed from 1 to 3 or from 2 to 3, or you can enter module 3 laterally by having a competence test in the beginning and then take the module. What is also special about this provision is that at the end of module 3, you have access to the VET diploma at National Qualification Framework 4, which is the apprenticeship diploma in Austria. This is an important specific feature because those who want to take this exam can take it. The others don't have to, because you also get a certificate for every module. Now, for the business education partnerships, this program is interesting because it is very often used in, for instance, in tourism or also in the construction labor market segment, because it allows employers to send their workers, their seasonal workers, to take part in the modules. So they work, for instance, through the spring and the summer and the autumn, and during the winter time, they participate in the module 1. Then they return back to their workplaces, and in the next seasonal break, they again participate in module 2, and again module 3, and so on. So that's quite an interesting way to organize a formal qualification, I would say, because it is a type of apprenticeship, but it's a type of apprenticeship for adults and not for young ones, not for the youth, but for the adults. And it is also beneficial for the workers because during their seasonal break, when they might get laid off and after taken on again, they have their support by the Public Employment Service. And also, the enterprises are supported in this by the Public Employment Service. Of course, this is a specific program in Austria because of the structures of the Public Employment Service. But again, the idea of organizing a formal qualification through recurrent seasonal participation is quite an interesting idea that can be taken up and also specified for different types of programs. The second is vocational qualification at SPA. So SPA is, for those of you who don't know SPA, I don't know if it's It exists in Spain or in Portugal or in Greece, but it's a big retail company where you can get all your groceries and so on. So they have a program also for their experienced workers, and they cooperate with vet providers. This program is an integration type of business education partnership where it is financed by the enterprise. It is organized cooperatively by the enterprise and the vet provider. And the structure is that first there is an internal selection within the enterprise. Then there are general intensive courses by the vet provider or adult education provider. Then there are short specific courses organized by the HR department where they learn about what is just needed within the company rather than for a formal qualification. And then at the end, again, they can access the apprenticeship diploma at NQF 4. This program is just for those working at SPA. It's not a general program, but it is a program that is just a collaboration, a partnership between SPA and the vet provider. The specific features here is that there are groups who are from the same enterprise, so they know each other, or they have the same backup, because the enterprise supports them. What is also interesting is that from the enterprise point of view, it's commitment and employer branding that is important to them, because when you provide your employees with the chance to get the vocational qualification also through a second chance pathway, this really strengthens the commitment of the workers towards your enterprise. What's also a specific feature is that there's a broad curriculum and a formal qualification, and with the diploma at NQF 4, you have access to further formal education. So again, with regard to the business education partnership, here you have a real project that can be implemented every year as long as you have a stable relationship between an enterprise and a vet provider. Also, this is quite interesting, but it's also, again, related very much to the Austrian context, because in the Austrian context, it is possible to take the apprenticeship diploma without taking an apprenticeship. Yeah? But again, this can be applied to other types of qualifications as well, be them norm-formal or in the formal system. And now the last one, I talked about it, I believe I talked about it last time a little bit, is the You Can Do It validation program, which is financed by the regional government, for instance, in Salzburg or in Upper Austria, and also by the Chamber of Labor and by enterprises, or sometimes with a little contribution by the workers themselves. And it's organized through a partnership of the Chamber of Labor, the Chamber of Commerce, and the vet providers. But in the end, it always comes up to the commitment of the enterprises to send their workers. So the target group are adults with no formal qualification, but many years of experience in an occupational field. What is specific, the specific feature is that you have an apprenticeship exam in 2 steps. You have a first part of the exam where you only have the theoretical part, and then you have a second part of the exam with the practical part. And this gives the chance to start off with workshops, with 3 workshops, where they try to find out about their prior learning, about their competences, their skills and knowledge. And then they have the first part, the formative assessment part of the apprenticeship exam, where they then get a feedback that leads to a gap training. So they have a kind of individualized gap training just to prepare them for the final summative assessment in the second part of the apprenticeship exam. And I mentioned it in terms of business education partnership. What is very important is the commitment of the enterprises, because they not only send their people, be them a single person or in groups. Sometimes they send 15 people to these programs, but they also organize the workshops. So what is part of this business education partnership is that the workshops are organized within the company with the exact machines and the tools and everything in the company, but they are provided by experienced vocational teachers. And this also is an interesting combination, because you have the expertise from outside and you have the broad curriculum expertise of these vocational education teachers, but at the same time, you have all the resources in an enterprise that you can use for your workshops and for discussions, and you can use them also to have some authentic learning where the participants actually perform their work tasks within the workshops, and then they discuss them together with the teachers and with the other participants. So this is another type of business education partnership. And what I also want to mention, which is the last thing here, is that the enterprises also have the chance to suggest new vocational areas. So if there is an enterprise for, I don't know, wood technician or whatever, which is not part of this program, an enterprise can go there to the Chamber of Labor and say, okay, we need to have a validation program for this and that vocational area. And then they can create together a new offer and then implement it in a cooperative way. So this is the business education partnership here. To close my presentation, just some ideas of what is needed maybe to create such broad business education partnerships in terms of didactical design, which is sometimes you need a qualification profile. Which defines what exactly is to be taught, what are the learning outcomes, and so on. And my advice is really less is more. Yeah, and also to have a criteria and a construct mix, which simply means that you have to include learning outcomes from the workplaces, but you also have to include learning outcomes from the educational system, for instance, and that it also is useful for work, for democratic participation, and for life of the participants. Obviously, qualification programs, profiles are ideally created in a participatory way, where you include, for instance, enterprises or representatives of enterprises. Design-based is also interesting, because design-based qualification profile means that you can change it while proceeding forwards. And that's also interesting, because very often qualification programs are very restricted, and once they are implemented, the chance to change them is not good. So if they are created in a design-based way, you have the chance to have a circle where you have an evaluation circle and change some little parts and then implement it again. And for the curriculum design, the most important thing is coherence. Coherence means that the parts, the different seminars, the different courses, whatever you include in your program, they need to be connected with each other. And this is also part of the last bullet point here, from specific to general, which simply means that for when workers engage in education, it is very useful to start from their own experience, what their experience in work is, and from this specific experience go towards the general, which means what does it mean for the region, what does it mean for vocational area, what does it mean globally, etc., etc. So this are just some ideas how programs can be created. And now I thank you very much for your interest, and I look forward to your questions and comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Assinger, for your excellent presentation and great introduction into our business education partnership sessions. Are there any questions for Mr. Assinger for the moment? You can raise your hand. While we are waiting maybe for questions, as you all may know, one of the main goals of the HABITABLE project is to boost, to strengthen, and to build up business education partnerships across partner regions and partner countries. So these online sessions are designed to help us to learn from each other by sharing, by showcasing different models of collaboration, and to exchange this knowledge. The next step will be also to transfer this knowledge, to adapt it and implement it within your own regions and your own countries. As also Philip highlighted, ensuring the sustainability of networks remains the main challenge. So, and it's exactly why these online sessions are so valuable. They are providing us opportunity to continue learning, building, and preparing for the next phase of the project in the months ahead. So maybe a question from my side for Philip, what are the key factors that make business education partnership sustainable in the long term? What would you say the main key factors?
Invite them to participate from the beginning on, I would say, but don't overestimate their contribution. What I mean is that enterprises very often, they have a vague idea of what they need, of their needs. They don't have an exact idea because they have so many things to do. They are full of tasks of production, innovation, whatever, especially when they are small and medium-sized enterprises. So they can express their wishes, but they often can't express what they actually need. So the question here is really, what is the task? What is the responsibility of the VET providers or the network partners and so on? Because if you just take what they give you, you might be going in a wrong direction. This needs to be a two-way cooperation where they provide you with their ideas, maybe with their wishes and needs, and you need to give them the feedback on how feasible this actually is. Because not every idea that sounds good for an enterprise is feasible for a VET provider. And vice versa, obviously. So this really needs to be a cooperative setting, a participatory setting from the beginning on. What is also important, I would say, is to have either large companies who can push things forward, or you have a network of smaller companies who can push things forward. Because one problem usually is that you get participants for a first round. So you start off in 26, and in 26 you have like 20 participants, and then in 27 the one enterprise is done, and suddenly you have 10 participants or no participants at all, because enterprises, they can't send you a large number of participants each year or each semester or whatever. So you really need to diversify also in the network and in the cooperation so that you have a stable number of participants. This is also important. So that's the problem of too when you have a partnership that is just with one company or one enterprise, that might be problematic because if the company is not large enough. That might work if you have companies with apprentices, with large companies with apprentices. They can send you 5 to 10 people every year, but smaller ones can't do that usually because they need their workers at home. So it's very important to have these networks and to diversify in the partnership, and then have their commitment and their participation. Then it could be more sustainable, I would say.